Hello, dear students. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to a new lecture. This is Unit 2, Space Exploration. As a theme opener, I would like you to look at these pictures and try to relate them to space exploration. What ideas come to your mind by looking at each of these pictures? What do you see in each of them? And how is that helpful or related to our life as humans on Earth for us to explore the space? And now let's watch a video. This video should be able to introduce us to this new theme.
So I've got my essay written, and I've been working on it for about a week. So now I'm going to show you how I use Grammarly to edit.
Okay, so here our video starts.
Almost everyone is convinced that the space exploration is useful for the people on Earth. Therefore, we made this video to show you some of the benefits. Today, we have with the International Space Station, ISS, an outpost in Earth orbit. And Russian cosmonauts and Western astronauts are working together in it, because international cooperation is a matter of course and also a driving force in space travel. This cooperation not only serves the purpose of international understanding, but also bundles the different know-how of the different countries and spreads the costs on several shoulders. Another important point is the possibility to do science in space. And with the European Columbus module, the Japanese Kibo module, and the US Destiny Laboratory module, the ISS offers a variety of research possibilities. In the past, there were also different research modules for the space shuttle that found room in the payload bay, like the European Space Lab, but these were only suitable for short-term experiments. Therefore, with the research possibilities on the ISS, progress is possible in several areas. Maybe we will discover a breakthrough. But especially the material sciences benefited from the microgravity in Earth orbit, because without the fact that things sink to the ground, there are new ways of producing materials. This could make entirely new solar cells possible, or mean major advances in the coating of surfaces. Furthermore, it's very likely that there will even be a space manufacturing process for producing superalloys in the future. Not inside the laboratory on the ISS, but attached to it, is the energy-hungry alpha magnetic spectrometer, AMS-02. And this experiment module helps us to measure the antimatter content in the cosmic radiation. This gives us a better picture of the universe and may help us in the future to find evidence of the mysterious dark matter. In addition, the human research and the space medicine are also important. Through this, we learned more about the bone stays in space and develop wearables for astronauts to monitor their health status. Other experiments on board could help. For example, a microplaster was found to kill bacteria and promote widespread suffering of chronic open wounds. Plasma medicine is also promising because low temperature plasma not only bacteria, but also against viruses and fungi without side effects. Furthermore, through the space exploration of our solar system, we learn also more about our own planet, the detection and the relationship between chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, and the ozone hole helped us to learn more about the fragility of our own home world. In particular, the Earthrise image of Apollo 8, taken from the moon's orbit on Christmas Eve 1968, is considered a symbol of environmental protection. In addition, many spacemen raved about the beauty of Earth from above and that there are no boundaries visible. Without numerous satellites orbiting our world and collecting data, we would not know much about the greatest challenge of our time, climate change. The polar caps are melting, the sea level will rise, and extreme weather phenomena such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and forest fires will become more frequent in the future. Therefore, we will cover this important topic in detail in a separate video. History would not be possible without satellites. We've been using them for decades for televisions and navigation, and the use of satellite internet will soon be standard due to the Starlink project of SpaceX. Only thanks to space travel do we now know more about our planet today than ever before, about the processes that are responsible for the weather or how we can protect our planet. In our future. It costs a lot of money. It's a good investment in our future.
All right. So after watching this video, I want you to think of at least 4 benefits of space exploration. If you feel like you would need to watch that video again, please go ahead, watch that video again and look for at least 4 benefits for space exploration, as I said before in the introduction of our theme. So the question is, what is space exploration? Space exploration is the physical exploration of outer space, both by human space flights and by robotic spacecraft. And why do we explore space? Here's the question. Here are now the reasons or the answers. First, to improve our understanding of the human body, because our body, our life, our movement, physics, biology, chemistry, everything in this world is connected to each other. So understanding what's around us, not only in our environment and not only on this earth, however, around our earth in this world, in this space, makes us understand ourselves, our life, and our human body. Then talking on cellular phones, for example, this was due to the studies and the findings in space exploration. And also satellites in our everyday lives, creating jobs in technology, taking action on climate change, because when we know what's around us and how like when we know the ozone layer and all these details, we can be more careful about the way we're taking it in our life, pollution, for example, and things we might do to affect our earth. And then making also scientific discoveries, performing risky surgical procedures, and getting young people interested in science. So space exploration is chapter number 2, and we have 2 lessons. The first lesson is Mars, our neighbor in space. The second lesson is astronomers discover solar system. And the comprehension skills that you're going to learn here is the chronological order. So what are the objectives? Objective number one is that you'll be able to identify the concept of space exploration by the end of this lecture. You'll be able to identify the achievements of space exploration. You'll be able to organize events in chronological order. You will also be able to figure out the meanings of unfamiliar words using context clues, and then you will answer different referential and inferential questions related to the text. You will be demonstrating critical understanding of the text through answering different discussion and critical thinking. So here's a summary of this chapter. In lesson number one, Mars, our neighbor in space, you'll know how Earth and Mars are similar and why is it important to find a planet similar to Earth. And in lesson two, you will know why astronomers are willing to discover more about the outer space and what a solar system means. And below you have the sources. So let's start with our comprehension skill, which is chronological order, which we're going to learn and practice in this lecture. So the chronological order, the author organizes the events in the story or the steps in a process in the order in which that occurs. So in the correct order in which these events or the steps occur. Because if we change or switch the order of these events, we'll be changing the whole story or the whole process, and also that process will not be any valid process anymore, and also it will not make sense. So the author organizes the events in the story or the steps in a process in the order in which that occur. And the sequence of events helps readers understand the story. As we said, we cannot understand anything if events or steps are not put in the correct order, the chronological order, which means the way in which they occurred. There are transitions used in the sequence of events. Some of these transitions are first, next, then, after that, finally, after a while, afterward, again, also, and then, as long as, at last, at that time, eventually, furthermore, in the first place, lately, meanwhile, moreover, now, presently, simultaneously, since, soon, until now, when, and etc. And they can also use dates or years. For example, in this year, this event happened. In 2012, this is the first event. In 2015, this is the second event. In 2017 happened the third event, and then in 2020 happened the fourth event. And then I cannot change the order of these events by changing the year when they happened. So I have to order them according to the year, for example, in the chronological order. So let's practice here. Read the paragraph below, then number the events in the correct order. Making orange juice concentrate from fresh oranges is done entirely by machines. First, oranges are dumped into a moving belt. They travel into a machine which washes them with detergent. Next, they are rolled into juicing machines where 700 oranges per minute are split and squeezed. Then the rinds, which is the skin of the oranges, are thrown out the end of a long tube. At the same time, the juice goes through small holes in the bottom of the tube. Next, the juice goes into another machine called the finisher. There, the seeds and other tiny objects are removed. Last, the juice goes into large tanks where most of the water is removed. So you need to order the events. The events are listed down for you. and the order is already there for you. Now, before looking at the sentences, what I want you to do in this exercise is to look at every sentence in the paragraph, not the separate sentences, and think to yourself that if I say they are rolled into juicing machines where 700 oranges per minute are split and squeezed, and I don't say, and I put that as the first thing, and I skip that first they are washed. Would the process be correct? No. So by now you can see that we cannot change the chronological order of events. So we should put them as is, as they happen, or as the correct way it's for them to happen. And that way they would have a meaning and make sense. So for example, also look at the signal where it's underlined at the same time. What happens at the same time when the rinds are thrown out the end of a long tube? The juice goes through small holes in the bottom of the tube. So this juice, the whole juice with the rinds, they are all passing through a tube. There are small holes where the juice, the water, the liquid juice is uh, going through the small holes of the tube, and then the rinds are thrown out the end of the long tube at the same time. So I hope by now you understand the chronological order and how you can find the correct order of events or the process according to these words: first, next, then, last, at the same time. So now you have to read the below paragraph and fill in the following chart with the events in the correct chronological order also. So soccer is a game that has been played for numerous years. In fact, many people believe that it began in England over 100 years ago. About 200 years ago, in the early 1800s, boys in England played a sport like soccer, but they called it football. However, each school made up their own rules. In 1863, a group of players met and wrote official rules for soccer. Soccer started spreading to other countries. In 1904, an international group called FIFA, which is FIFA, formed to make sure that every team around the world followed the same soccer rules. Today, soccer is one of the most popular sports in the world. So also look at the years, the dates, mainly the years, and look at the events. And do you think if I say a group of players met and wrote official rules for soccer, before saying that boys in England played a sport like soccer, but they called it football and they made their own rules, that would be incorrect. So in 1800, soccer began in England, and then in 1863, the rules for soccer were written. In 1904, an international group called FIFA formed to make sure that every team around the world followed the same soccer rules. And in 2020, soccer is now one of the most popular sports around the world. So as we said before, the events can be set in the chronological order using the signal words or using the years, as you can see, the years in front of you. Now, we want to analyze this chart. Here is a statistical chart. It's a table to be analyzed. What does statistical means? There are percentages, numbers, findings. These are statistics. So in order to answer where we have charts and tables, we need to do the following. Let us take a look at the chart below. The bar graph below depicts the number of deaths due to pollution in 10 countries. So this is the title of this chart. This chart depicts the number of deaths due to pollution. You have the top 10 countries. You have India, China, Pakistan, Nigeria, Indonesia, Russia, USA, Congo, Brazil, and Philippines. And then you have the number of deaths, as we said, due to the pollution. We have 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3 million. So here you have the number of deaths due to population in each country. So what first of all, try doing this on your own. Which one has the highest number or rate of deaths due to pollution? Which country? So you can see here this column in blue, dark blue, the highest one, 2.51, which is the greatest number. The number of deaths due to pollution is in India. And second comes 1.83 China, and then Pakistan, and then Nigeria. Now, what I want you to do is by looking at these columns and how numbers are going, what can you deduce? Are the numbers going from India till the end, Philippines? Are the numbers increasing, decreasing, or staying constant? And how are also the number of deaths due to pollution in the countries are varying? Now, take a moment and think of that on your own. Now I'll be giving you the answer. As you can see in front of you, the columns, the length of the column, for example, the first one is the taller one, and then the one after is shorter and shorter and shorter. And also not only looking at the columns, but also at the numbers are decreasing all the time. So this means these are ordered in a chronological order from the country, which is India, that has the highest number of deaths due to pollution, to Philippines, which has the lowest number of deaths due to pollution, which is 0.09 million. So what do you conclude about the number of deaths due to pollution, and which country? So we ask these questions: which country have the highest number of deaths, and which one has the lowest? Analyze the graph and give conclusion. Your answer for this question should always be made of 3 parts in a single paragraph. First, you write the topic sentence as you write a paragraph, which is taken from the heading of the chart directly, which says the number of deaths in the different countries because of pollution. And then you write an analysis of data as we did before. We looked at the numbers, they're decreasing, they're ordered. We looked at how the columns are also getting shorter. So you look at the data, which are the numbers according to the countries. You show the highest, the lowest, and you give a general feedback or a general finding, for example, about what you're seeing in that chart, which is they are ordered from the highest to the lowest number of deaths because of pollution. And at the end, you write a conclusion. For example, India has the highest rate or number of deaths because of pollution, and then Philippines has the lowest number. So the answer, the bar graph below depicts the amount of deaths due to pollution in 10 different countries, the ones that were listed on the horizontal axis. And then you say India has the highest number of deaths. You put the number between the brackets, which is 2.51 million, followed by China, 1.83 million, Pakistan, Nigeria, Indonesia, Russia, USA, Congo, Brazil, and Philippines, respectively, which means in this order. Respectively means in this order. Thus, we conclude that the highest number of deaths due to pollution is in India, which means that this country is highly contaminated. There's so much pollution in India because the highest number of deaths because of pollution is in India in comparison to the other 9 countries. Now we're going to look at the vocabulary words. The first vocabulary word is mapping. It's a noun. It's the activity or process of making a map. So the activity of or process of making a map is called mapping. And then definite means fixed or certain or clear. For example, say definitely, certainly, yeah. And then investigation, it's a noun, the act or a process of examining a crime, for example, or statement carefully. We investigate, we examine something carefully, especially to discover the truth. Fossil is the shape of a bone, a shell, a plant, or animal that has been preserved in rock for a very long period. So sometimes when there is an animal, a plant, a shell, or a bone that has been preserved in a rock for a very long period of time, that whole shape is called a fossil. And then constellation is any of the groups of stars in the sky that seem from Earth to form a pattern and have been given names. So there are stars that have like are put in a specific order, and they seem from Earth to form a specific pattern, and people do memorize that pattern and follow it, and there are names for them. So this is constellation. And what is astronomy? It's the scientific study of the universe. It's the scientific study of the universe and of objects that exist naturally in space, such as the moon, the sun, planets, and stars. Let's start our reading lesson. Number one, Mars, our neighbor in space. Read the following text in which the writer sheds light on exploring our neighboring planet, which is Mars. When you are through, answer the questions that follow. Mars, our neighbor in space. Astronomers all over the world were waiting in excitement as August 1993 approached. Mars Observer, the American spacecraft, was scheduled to move into orbit around Mars and begin sending new information back to Earth. In addition to mapping the planet, Mars Observer was going to study the Martian atmosphere and surface. Unfortunately, scientists lost contact with Mars Observer mission, which cost $845 million failed. In contrast, the United States' previous mission to Mars was a great success. In 1976, two American spacecraft landed on Mars in order to search for signs of life. The tests that the Viking landers performed had negative results. However, scientists still had questions about our close neighbor in space. They wanted to investigate further into the possibility of life on Mars. This was the purpose of the Mars Observer mission. Scientists' interest in the red planet is based on an assumption. They believe that 4.5 billion years ago, Mars and Earth began their existence under similar conditions. During the first billion years, liquid water, in contrast to ice, was abundant on the surface of Mars. This is an indication that Mars was much warmer at that time. Mars also had a thicker atmosphere of carbon dioxide, which is CO2. Many scientists think it's possible that life began under these favorable conditions. After all, Earth had the same conditions during its first billion years, when life arose, and then at some point in time, Earth developed an atmosphere that is rich in oxygen and an ozone layer. The ozone layer protects Earth. It also survived and became more complex. In contrast, Mars lost its thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide, and ultraviolet radiation intensified. The planet eventually grew colder and its water froze. The two Viking landers performed 4 experiments. 3 experiments tested for biological activity on the soil. However, these tests didn't lead to any definite results. The fourth experiment looked for any evidence of life, dead or alive, but found none. Scientists want another investigation of Mars because they want to map the planet's surface. They want to search for fossils, the ancient remains of life. If life ever existed on Mars, scientists believe that future mission might find records of it under sand or in the ice. They're very disappointed in the failure of the Mars Observer mission and want to start a new mission. Other countries are interested in Mars too. For example, Russia is always planning also planning to send an unnamed spacecraft to Mars in the near future. Even if future missions discover no evidence of past or present life on Mars, scientists should keep looking for the answers to other intriguing questions. How is Earth different from Mars? And how can we explain the development of life here on our planet and not on Mars? How can we explain the development of life here on our planet and not on Mars, our close neighbor? Are we alone in the universe? And scientists should not leave these questions unanswered. Now, here we're going to look at these questions in reference to the text and try to answer them. So part A, refer to the text to answer the following questions in complete sentences using your own words. Number one, what were the two missions that Mars Observer was going to perform? Number two, name the two countries that seem to be interested in exploring Mars. Number three, according to paragraph 3, why do scientists assume there was life on Mars? Explain your answer. And then number 4, explain the writer's attitude towards space exploration and support your answer with a piece of evidence from the passage. And then part B, refer back to the text to complete the following sentences. The Mars Observer mission failed because of what? In order to search for signs of life in Mars, complete the following sentence. When Mars lost its thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide, also complete the sentence. So take some time and try solving them on your own. Now, part C, you have to refer to paragraphs 1 and 2 to fill in the following chart below. Now, there's the year and the event. So you have to look for the event that happened in 1976 and the event that happened in 1993. And of course, here there's a chronological order. So the event which happened in 1976 cannot be put after the event that happened in 1993. So here is the answer, or here are the answers for the 3 parts. The answer for number 1 in part A, the 2 missions that Mars Observer was going to perform were orbit around Mars and begin sending new information back to Earth. This is number 1, and you have also the answer for number 2, 3, 4, and part B, 1, 2, and 3. You can look at them. And you have here the answer for part C. Thank you for watching this lecture. I hope everything is clear. If you have any question, you can send me an email on mmohsen.ischoolai@gmail.com. This is Ms. Maha Mohsen at the International School of Innovation.